that's a triple play. New episodes, I couldn't wait. Yeah, open your mind at the first gate. Press play, no need to debate. AoA, check me out. Look, plugged in, you can catch the hype. Golden Dawn, how we follow the light. Anime like life, married to it, my wife.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all ages? Welcome back to the AoA show. I'm your host, as always, Ian, along with my boys Isaiah.
Yo, yo, yo.
And Gavin.
What is Gucci shoes?
And today we're here to talk about Jujutsu Kaisen Episode 9, Small Fry and Reverse Retribution. Hell of a title. But this one was a blast to watch. If you haven't seen our live reaction to this yet, you are definitely missing out because it was fantastic. You definitely want to go check that out on our YouTube channel. But we're here today to kind of break down what we saw, dive a little bit deeper, make some predictions, talk about the characters, what we liked, what we didn't like, etc. So if you guys like the content, make sure you guys are smashing that like button, subscribing, hitting that notification bell, sharing with your friends, and commenting your thoughts down below. What did you think of our discussion today? What did you think of this episode? And what are your thoughts on Jujutsu Kaisen as a series? But anyway, hopping right into it, I want to talk about our man, Kento, who is just introduced on the scene. Has a brilliant voice actor, and I don't know his name, but he's like been getting so much work lately between the voices of Overhaul. He was on ID Invaded. If you guys have watched that at some point, he was also, what was he on recently too?
Lero Row.
Oh, yeah, Lero
Row. How can you forget the number one? No, the camera doesn't
even
go back to you. It is Lero Row.
See what I did there? Lero as well. Anyway, but he just love that dude's voice. Just as a side note, it's fantastic, and it's cool to see him getting a lot of work. I feel like a lot of the anime we see now, it's like that guy's voice is in every other one, at least one character. But anyway, so that's who he's voiced by. And his character though is just
What's his name?
What, Kento? Oh, the voice actor? I said, I'm not sure of his name. I said he's done fantastic work, though. I just don't know off the top of my head. But anyway, Kento, the character in the show here, I personally liked a lot. I don't know if you guys had any first impressions about this guy, but I just loved his personality and in terms of how it meshed with Itadori and Gojo. Because Itadori and Gojo, I feel like, have a lot of similarities in the way they act. They're kind of kooky. Some might say naive, although Gojo's definitely been around the block. And this guy's just very matter of fact. You know, why'd you get into this? Well, actually, I hate it. It's shit, he goes. And then he's like, well, then why'd you do that? And he's like, well, then that's also shit. I just figured they're both shit, so I'm just kind of better at this. So, like, I'll do this, which is just fantastic. But I'm curious to know your guys' initial impressions of him. His fighting style, I thought, was something that was really cool as well, and how he kind of meshes with Itadori as a character in the rest of the cast. Anybody have any thoughts they'd like to share?
Yeah, I thought it was a really good episode. I'm definitely more curious now that we've gotten his whole, shebang and origin, or I mean, like not his origin, but his, like, how he fights and all the stuff, like how he stacks up to, I guess, specifically this guy who he's going to be fighting in the next episode. Because like his fighting style is interesting, but I wonder like what the limit is, right? Because he explained that, like, oh, if I'm fighting an opponent who's significantly weaker than me or has less cursed energy, like, I could one shot him with this technique. But it's like, all right, I wonder what the gap is in that. Like, so I'm interested to see if, like, his moveset is, like, applicable in more, like, if it's just kind of like that one thing done 1,000 times, like the Rock Lee stick, or if it's like there's multiple gimmicks that he can get out of it. Yeah. But I think he's pretty cool as a character. He's kind of like the Gojo opposite, right? Gojo's very, like, by the flow, like, whatever. And he's like, no, like, this is X, Y, and Z. Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, he's definitely very stern, but you can tell that he has that soft side, which is something I really liked about him. He didn't take himself, I guess he took himself seriously, but not to the point where he was, because sometimes you get characters like that and they're so, concrete in that way. And they're like, doesn't, like, by the rule book, I don't really care about whatever else is going on. I don't like you. You could go die, whatever. Maybe not that extreme, but you get my point. And so with Itadori, though, there's definitely a lot of don't backtalk me. This is how you're doing it. But it was in the sense that it's like, no, I actually see why this kid, especially when Itadori reveals his ability. And I am curious, too, to get back real quick before we move on, about his ability as well and how it's going to stack up, especially now we're getting the hint that he may be going up against this potentially the strongest curse human, that we've met in the series so far, or at least this seems to be stacking up to be that way, minus Sukuna, right? So that'll be some interesting stuff to look at, especially how he stacks up. And looking at Gojo, it's kind of hard for me, when you look at some of these other sorcerers, and it's like, that ability's sick, but like, how sick is it? Like, we did just see Gojo kind of invert space and time, so,
That's true.
That is true. However, Gojo did also leave Itadori to, wow, I already forgot his name. I'm calling him the Goggler.
Kento?
Kento. Yeah. Literally, it's like the first thing is the Goggler. No, Kento. But it's funny. Oh, excuse me. Now I'm dying. How I feel like he has to be very strong because it looks like he has Gojo's respect, And Gojo, as we know, doesn't mess with any of the elders, thinks they're all kind of booty. So, the fact that he is able to rely on Kento to not only look over Itadori, but teach him says something to Kento's character. And it really, I feel like there's a lot of stock in him, and it's not just, I'm going to swing this blade and do this and that. Like, he is going to do some dope stuff, and I can't wait to see, him honestly unleash. And I feel like it's going to be on that same level as Gojo, if not, a couple rings below. But I'm definitely looking forward to it.
I think they didn't they refer to the fact that Kento was a first year?
When he is a first year.
Yeah. So that's what I find interesting is the fact that even though Kento is under rank to somebody compared to Gojo, that Gojo has this level of faith and trust, and he's like, no, this guy, don't worry about it. This guy can cut it. He can show you the ropes and teach you what you need. When logistically, I guess, rank and level wise, they're him and Itadori are neck or neck. So it's like something about Kento that puts him above your typical first year.
Yeah, definitely. For sure. Now I wanted to talk about, his name evades me, and I apologize here trying to look at the wiki. But the new child that we are introduced to in the beginning of this episode, and I would argue really has more of a presence beyond getting to know Kento and stuff. And what his deal is, right? So we see the typical bully scene where, he's getting beat up, whatever. And he's like, I kind of wish everyone could just die if I wanted them to.
Everyone he hated.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
Okay. Everyone that hates him, because remember he makes a distinction. He's like, I think if I could press a button and kill everybody I hate, I probably wouldn't do it. But if I could press a button and kill everyone who hates me, I would probably do it.
Yeah. So anyway, a lot of button pressing, a lot of death. So
what?
Then you were itching your nose, and you were flicking your sunglasses, or did you just hear
my sunglasses?
Whatever your
dog, I wear these every day. Sunglasses.
Whatever, glasses. Anyway, so what his motivations are and all that kind of stuff. So we get the the typical bullying thing, which again, above and beyond, where they just beat the snot out of him. The teacher does nothing. I have to say, I do appreciate that there is a teacher, at least, although they did nothing. Compared to some of the other, we've been reading a lot of manga lately, and there have been a lot that have have been centered around this high school setting. And I mean, take anime, for example, and sometimes it just got kind of crazy because there's just no teachers involved, and it's like, this is just insane, it's ridiculous. And in this one, they're at least like, well, the teacher's there, he just does nothing, and I was just like, all right, you know what, fair enough, dude. So yeah, going to the theater and then talking about the villain that we have here that's getting set up, whose name is Mahito. So Mahito is very interesting because we find out that not only can he just touch your head and you become disfigured, you turn into a
cursed
spirit in all essence, right? You're human, but you're not. And you kind of just, which is disturbing to say the least. It looks incredibly painful when the transition does happen, and can definitely make for some moral ambiguity when some of these sorcerers who are a little more, considerate, I guess, of others, or maybe these deaths hit them a little harder when they now have to fight these people, right? We even see Itadori is like, that's a tough one, and he gets really pissed. He gets pissed about it because he's like, that is the scummiest form that you can possibly go by. So this guy is very interesting as well. And the fact that he says, I'm a human cursed spirit, I was created as a human cursed spirit from whatever. So I'm curious to know his backstory. We get a quick glimpse of his backstory, in there's a silhouette of a person holding a red bead or something like that, and going towards, and I don't know what that's all about. Anybody have predictions on that or more to add to this guy?
I'm actually really just happy that we got the backstory that he gives the kid Mahito about cursed spirits and where the origins come from, and he's at the beginning is literally reading a book of most famous apparitions and stuff. But that he explains, he's like, all right, well, there's the common fears, the most known phenomenons that humanity has been afraid of since the beginning of time. He's like, but there are other things that humanity has also feared. Sure. Things like natural disasters, things that are sort of bigger than them. Mm-hmm. And it when he says that, it flashes to his homies, like there's the volcano guy who represents volcanoes, and then there's the other guy who has like the flower thing, which represents like Earth. So that I find it interesting now that there's a distinction between cursed spirits by means of like the way that they come about into existence. So there's ones that like form from like your more common based fears or like the smaller scale stuff, and then there's ones like those guys where it's like, no, this is like natural disaster level. And then when he drops the thing where he's like, oh well, there's like the cursed spirit of humans, of humanity, and that's what he's supposed to be so I find all that interesting, and I'm very curious as to like learning more about Mahito, like specifically how he came about, but also just like how that happens, right? Because his ability is to turn regular humans seemingly into cursed spirits, but I don't know how far that goes. Like, does that mean whoever made him had that ability and like transferred it to him, or like, you know what I mean? I don't know. So I'm curious to see like where that goes.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. What I'm kind of going through in my brain canon is if it's something similar to like the Sukuna situation, where maybe he actually like that pill or whatever is one of those sacred cursed objects that he maybe consumed, and then with that, survived the trials, whatever it put on his body, and now he has like this developed power. He's just aiming it in a different way than say our main characters. So that's kind of what's going through my head, but again, no basis to actually go off of just conjecture. But I could see how they would tie it to where it's like, these are the parallels. Like you can see our main character and how he's using it for good. And then like on the other token, he could be in this weird diluted way where he's just carrying out his own like fruitions. But that's what I see from it.
Yeah. Curious to see Mahito's motivations at the end of the day, because he's more than your standard cursed spirit, as we've already established. And which means he has different motivations than just your standard weird sounding cursed spirit that just repeats detergent over and over again, or some of the other ones, like the one with the sideways mouth and stuff that he turned. I was like, interesting choice of words, but interesting stuff there. And I do have to say, kind of piggyback off what you were saying, I really enjoy in this show the explanations that they give. And there's something about it, and I can't quite pin it. And if any of you want to chime in, or if anyone in the comments knows what I'm talking about or can relate, or like, what the difference is, there's something about Jujutsu Kaisen that when they describe something, whether it's a technique, whether it's why they perform a certain action, whether it's explaining the lore, whether it's explaining the world, they do it in such a way that is short, sweet, and to the point, but it's engaging for me to watch. Half the time it's comical, and like, I'm not left confused at all. I know exactly what's going on, at least from what they want to tell me. And like, I'm not like, all right, that just seemed like a ridiculous amount of time to devote to X thing. I feel like they found the formula in this show, and I don't know, it's just a gut feeling with this show, like where they've been able to kind of meld the best of it, where I'm like, oh, I get it. You know what I mean? But it's not every 2 seconds. I'm like, okay, we didn't need to go off the path every 2 minutes here to explain it, but like they do it in such a way. I think like one of the, like even down, they do it multiple times in this episode. 2 examples right off the top of my head that I thoroughly enjoyed were Itadori, his ability, which was really cool. The sense that the fact that he kind of hits you twice. And the first one is like, here's my normal human punch, which is ridiculous because I'm a national athlete basically. And then my curse energy flows through and hits it with like a second impact. And I thought that was cool how they explained that. And Gojo and his drip, that was cool. And then I also liked, and this one's a little more of a silly one, but I did appreciate it, where name evades me. Kento, thank you.
Yes.
Nice save.
I know the scene that you're talking about.
Yeah. Kento basically starts saying his move, and Itadori makes a joke, like a parody of it, because you see that's so much in anime. It's like, dude, like, why are you saying your move? And he's like, there's like, and I mean, sure, the explanation might be a little ridiculous, or you might be like, I'm not buying that, but at least they did. And I like the fact that he was like, there's amount of resolve and confidence that you have, and like there's or something along those lines. And like
he says like, you're making a pact with what you say you're gonna do, so now you have to like hone in on that ability and like make something of it.
Yeah, and it's like all or nothing now. I thought that was, like, it could be considered silly, but I genuinely appreciated that, because so many times in anime I've just been like, like you just come to expect it, but it's like I never knew the reasoning, you know what I mean, behind it, besides to let the audience know what it was, or to add some cool badass element to it. So I thought that was a really cool thing. But yeah, I mean, getting back to the, again, kid's name evades me at the moment, I apologize, but his backstory is something that is curious to me as well. Like backstory, right? Because like maybe, I don't know, maybe there's not much. Maybe I'm overthinking it. What do you think? Do you think it's just the school? Do you think he's just like, I don't know, whatever? Or you think there's something else that's below?
I mean, I feel like for story's sake, they're probably going to add another like added layer underneath it.
Fair
or
enough.
like probably something's not good at home, you know, like kind of your generic stuff.
Sure.
But then again, I almost feel like they're just not going to escape over. I'm more like curious on, we've said it, where the OP, it's like they're it looks like he's buddy with everybody at the high school, you know? So
spoilers, jeez.
spoilers. But I'm curious if it's more like a facade that he's putting on, where like, oh, maybe he's going to just figure out like almost like some double agent type stuff, where he's like figuring out more stuff, how this high school works, who are the elders, like who do I need to kind of like become friends with? Because if you remember the Volcano Head, back with their whole plan, they were like, yo, we need to get Goji and I already forgot the main character's name.
Gojo and Itadori.
Itadori. Remember, he's like, we need to get them on our side so like we can continue with this plan and do whatever. So maybe this is like a weird backdoor way to like befriend Itadori and maybe work up to the likes of Gojo and like.
Well, they want to get rid of Gojo specifically.
Yes, but they also said that they need to befriend him in a weird way. This was from episodes back where they were like, we need to get Itadori like on our side.
Well, Itadori specifically. So they need Sukuna on their side and they need Gojo gone. That was the two
But I
stipulations.
thought there was something where they needed to talk to Gojo.
They need him gone.
Well, I think I think
gone.
the implication was that their plan was to play the long con, because they can't just roll up. Like Volcano Head was a test of like, we can't just roll up and punch this dude because he would kill everybody. So we'll play the long game. We'll let him put out his plan. We'll wait for him to slip up and make a mistake, and when he does, when he falters, like that's when we'll hit him.
Exactly, and I think this kid is going to be that long game plan. Is what I'm getting at.
Interesting.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Cool. So in what way do you think they'll implement him?
Like in
as
terms of
double
he's a
agent, you're
bad
saying?
guy, but he might have the facade. Yeah, double agent. Where he
Okay,
puts on a
I just
facade,
wanted to be sure. I didn't know.
he like infiltrates it and maybe befriends Itadori, and then through that friendship, he's able to find out information, relate it back, to them, and then do all that.
So you
weird,
think
evil
overall
shit.
he's going to be a bad guy? I guess was my question.
I will leave that to. I don't know. It's like there's a weird part of me who's like, I feel like that's the route they can go.
Sure.
But it's like until I see more of this kid, because the whole like I only want people who hate me to die makes it seem like he's not like evil. Like he might have just another side to him, and he just stumbled upon this guy, before any like Itadori or anyone else like Gojo. Like I feel like there is give and play to his character archetype. It just really relies on where he falls with Mojito. Does he like really mess with him as a person? Is he about his plan? Like we kind of need to know Mojito, what he's about, and if this kid buys into that, because that will determine really the whole route that the show goes down. But I'm just curious. I'm hoping in the next episode we find out more info on that.
Sure.
But maybe not. If it's just Kento, going balls to the wall crazy, and they're kind of backdoor this for a little bit while they can. But who knows? Like I don't know. But that's
Okay, fair enough.
Do we really know?
So getting towards, because that was really the bulk of the episode, right? Was the conversations between Mahito and the young boy, and then Itadori and Gavin, back me up again. Why am I
Kento.
Kento again. One ear out the other.
But Itadori, you're fine.
Yeah, right. Certain names, anyway. Those were really the two major plot points of the episode. So not too much more to go over, but I do think, kind of harkening back to what I was saying, but more as it relates to the end of the episode or towards the end, was when Kento was making the plan with Itadori to be like, okay, you got to go examine this kid, and I'm going to go do this thing, right? Mm-hmm. And then, you realize that the assistant's like, you just did that. Like, you didn't need him to do that. You already know, where this kid is.
He was like, you like really know the position of them and aren't just telling us on a whim, right? Yeah. And then Kento's like, yeah, bro, I got this. Like, it's mine,
Yeah. So interesting stuff. And he doesn't think Itadori's completely up to the task yet in terms of the opponent that he may be facing.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I think it comes from, I guess somewhat like Gojo has left Itadori in Kento's care, right? So first and foremost, he's like, if I see a situation that Itadori could die in, like I can't let him get involved, because if he dies, that's on my hands. Like I'm the one that's supposed to protect him. So I think that's really, if anything, just to keep him, like he already knows where Mahito is, but he's like, no, I'll take care of it. Like you go follow the kid, you go do whatever, but like he doesn't want him near the plan, because then, he knows Itadori's type. He knows he's going to be like, no, like let me come. He's like, nah, nigga, this is big boy stuff. Like I'm going to, because I think whatever, it's interesting how, like a lot of, I guess, the more advanced sorcerers, so like your Kentos, your Gojos, can like sense like the power level, or I don't know exactly what you would call it, of some of these it's like I think Kento knows exactly like what level, like what kind of threat we're dealing with here, and knows that like this isn't something to bring Itadori into.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, yeah, and it's cool because it opens up his character a little bit as just, like I said before, like from this like stone cold type thing where it's like even if he's just doing this for Gojo's sake or not, but it seems like he's a little bit like he understands Itadori has some potential behind him. He's like, oh, this wasn't just for show. Like this kid's got something going on, so I'm willing to give him some respect. But he is still a child, right? At the end of the day, and then real quickly that comic scene at the end of after the credits, what happened there? Gojo's quite the prankster, I have to say. I mean, I was like, what is happening? I was cracking up. Gavin was on the floor, almost literally.
That was literally one of the unexpected scenes, but also made my life that much better and like worth living. So keep on doing that.
Yeah, that was just fantastic.
Like when he just opened the note and all you see is penis, I was like, oh, it was like a little like picture too, but like they're not gonna show it, because it's on TV. But like just like the little, I was like, oh my god,
who is this man, Gojo?
What a savage.
And I love how he prefaced it. He's like, hey, Kento, I have to tell you something really important. Kento's like, no, you don't. Like he knew already this joke was coming, so this has been a back and forth with them for a while.
It's like him in the taxi, and he's like holding the signs. Come on, you can do it. You can do it.
Then he has the letter at the end. Yeah.
Also, Gavin, I have to get your personal opinion on this. Gojo without the blindfold or Gojo in his sunglasses outfit? Which one?
Bro, I'll take either or. If Gojo's rolling on me with either drip, I don't care. I will die. And I don't care if you're I will take him both. I don't care. But now that I don't know. I'm like thinking on
so confident, like, no, I'm taking. But well, hold on. If I had to pick,
I'm like messing up the cameras just trying to think about this. I'm like, all right.
Gotta pick one.
I don't want to be like, who would you pick? Because that's just some blah, blah. Blindfold. So, in fighting terms, blindfold. But in like day to day, if my man would rock those sunglasses, I'm about him. Maybe if they were like a little bit bigger, had like that mirrored thing on them,
Yeah,
like,
that's cute. I'm talking about sleeping with though.
Like,
you're talking. Would you fuck?
Oh, so you're jumping to bed?
Yeah. I don't care about kitty shit.
If we're talking sleeping with, I gotta say probably the sunglasses. I think because he did have that drip with like that tee with the messed up neck like rolling through. I'm just saying, I'm like, oh, you could take me to a hotel room right now. We'll be about it. Like we're doing that 9 to 5. Don't you be laughing because you'd be in on that too. Not with me though. You get the sloppy seconds, but it's fine. Isaiah in for the thirds because he's into that, so we're good.
Oh man.
Oh my God.
When in doubt, just keep on running with it.
Just keep on running.
All right, Isaiah, what about you?
Dig the hole deeper.
No, you need to know. Oh, that's wrong. It's all good.
Sunglasses, easy answer. Yeah, 100%.
All right, Ian.
Not that I wouldn't let the blindfoldless version fuck me. I'm just saying if it did, like I feel like because of that whole eye like thing, like he might warp us into like some alternate reality, and there's a whole, we gotta get it's a whole thing. You know what I mean? Thing. Sunglasses, still get the hair down, A-okay.
Yes.
All right, Ian.
Absolutely. Maki.
Glasses or no?
Not part of the question. I
That's
go with
a cop
Maki.
out.
Yep, absolutely, 100%. Fight me about it. Fight me about it.
Ian's like that other character in the show. Wait, why is that? Ian's like that other character in the show.
You got one job, Gavin.
No, it like turned black for a second. But it's that person who just says the different types of sushi like toppings and stuff.
Yes.
Like Ian's like tuna, rice, like just keeps on going until we hit a topic that he likes, and then he's just back to normal.
Oh my God, Maki, final answer.
Oh, it's gold.
Anyway, I think we've covered virtually everything.
Actually,
right?
I had a question for you guys. So at the end, one of the last scenes is when Itadori is creeping up on that other kid holding that whatever cursed object, whatever cursed spirit.
Yes.
So, do you think that they're going to be able to keep it cool and not physically run into that guy? Because they're just trying to scout him out, So they're not. I'd imagine they're not supposed to just roll up on him and be like, yo, like what happened in XYZ scenario. So do you think that knowing Itadori, he is going to actually come up and try to interact with the kid, and maybe that causes a sway in his outlook to maybe join Itadori based off of personality? Or do you think they're just playing the long, like, scout, they're going to keep on rolling it, and then in the future something might happen?
I think, personally, there's going to be a point, my prediction, where the assistant gets split from Itadori.
Okay.
And then Itadori runs into him in some way, shape, or form. Whether the
like
kid
outside of this. or
No, they could be tailing him, but maybe
Okay.
he's like, let's split or something like that, and
Okay.
whatever it is, and Itadori and him somehow have a conversation in some way, shape, or form is my prediction. Like, he's like, oh, I saw you there. Like, you know what I mean? Itadori's
Yeah.
kind of a goof, so I could see something like that. This kid seems to be that kind,
yeah.
where he could, like, sense that out. type thing.
perceptive. Yeah.
Yeah, he's smart.
Okay.
And then they have some sort of conversation. I don't know where it goes from there, but I think it's that, like, these people, their paths intersect, but they're not. It's not so much as like Itadori's just going to sway him over.
Okay.
And clearly we know Itadori's not going to sway to the other side. So I
Yes.
think it's them going up for the time being, parallel paths, but different on different two sides of the coin, and they're going, but like they have this weird interaction where it's like maybe Itadori just doesn't understand it, and that kid doesn't understand Itadori or something like that.
Okay.
And then maybe down the line is when there's like some sort of awakening if he does turn good, or not. Could be dead wrong. Again, prediction. So I don't know. What do you think?
Interesting. I think pretty much mostly the same. I think he's gonna there's gonna be some incident that's gonna cause Itadori to meet this kid like preemptively, and I think the kid, while he's not gonna be like swayed to Itadori or his side immediately, I think he's gonna take a liking to Itadori, but then go back with Mahito and start doing their villainy stuff. And then the liking that he takes to Itadori is kind of what's going to be the catalyst in him being like, should I be doing this though?
Like planting a seed almost.
Yeah. So that like the next time he meets Itadori, it'll be like on the battlefield, and they'll be like, and he's like, oh shit, like maybe should I, and then it's going to sort of snowball from there.
Yeah. All right. I think we basically covered everything in this episode, right?
Yeah.
More or less.
Went over a bit. Yeah. Fun stuff. But
Very.
anyway, folks, like I said before, if you guys like the content today, make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, hitting that notification bell, sharing with your friends, and commenting your thoughts down below. What did you think of our discussion? Are there any more points that you would like to bring up? What are your thoughts on some of the new characters that we had introduced today in this episode as a whole? And what are your thoughts on the series as a whole? Also, make sure you guys are referring to our description, where we have plenty of links which lead to ways where you can directly support the show, whether it's through our merch store if you want to rep some AoA swag, everything from shirts to hoodies to fanny packs to leggings to blankets. You name it, it's all there. Go check it out for sure. We also have our Patreon if you want exclusive benefits to the show and you want to support the channel at the same time. We have our Spotify link, so if you want to listen to this on the go, you don't have time to boot this up on YouTube and watch, you can listen. You're doing chores, you're driving to work, you're doing whatever. We have that on our audio-only platforms, on our podcast platforms there. We also have our community Discord. If you guys want to join the conversation, talk with some of the brilliant folks in our community, we have that link in there, as well as our social media, so you could follow us and keep up to date with what we are doing on a day-to-day. But
100%.
Until next time, folks, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll catch you on the flip. Peace.
Later.
Ninjas are samurais, blaze of the kunais. Find me in the leaf of the cloud, screaming out Bankai. We just some ghouls though, who like seeing parts fly.